All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another day of the Young Scholar Program. Just like always, we're going to be giving it a few more minutes just to let some more people join in. Um, so we'll get started probably like 1 or 2 more minutes as people start joining in. Yep. And it's great to see you all again. Just for the people who are here, I guess, right now, just a reminder, if you while I'm going through this, since I'm going to be sharing my screen, it's going to be kind of difficult to see both where you guys are messaging and the screen at the same time. But feel free to send messages in the chat or send them through like a private message if you want to. Just send questions or any things you want me to talk about as I'm going along, and I'll be sure to answer them or address them either towards the end, or I'll take a break in the middle to answer as many questions as possible. Yeah, so feel free to send any questions as you want. I'll just be going through the presentation, and just anything you guys are really interested in talking about related to, I don't know, the metaverse, which I think this is more of a really just a cool presentation. The topic's pretty interesting. It's like kind of sci-fi-esque in a lot of ways. It's less like technical in a way, but more just what the future could look like in terms of technology and the sort of expanding. It's not, the metaverse isn't that defined yet, but in the future, I believe it could expand and be a pretty cool area to work in. All right. I'll go ahead and probably get started now. So, welcome everyone. Today we're going to be talking about the metaverse, sort of exploring what the idea of a digital reality is a better way to put it too. So we're going to be basically talking about what is the sort of metaverse? What does this concept mean? What does this word mean? I hear it a lot in the news. I hear Mark Zuckerberg talk about it a lot. What does it actually mean? We're moving forward into sort of the market for it, what sort of layers make up the metaverse, some technologies that use it today, and some of the ways that it can disrupt industries in the future and really be a powerful tool, but also some of the challenges that come with those sort of disruptions, and how do we actually implement this in the real world. So, understanding the concept of the metaverse. So, the metaverse is essentially, like, the technical Webster dictionary definition would be a virtual world where people engage in immersive interactions with each other and computer-generated environments. So that's sort of a fancy way of saying it's a virtual replication or a virtual environment. Like, you're putting yourself into this digital world, and you're talking to other people who are also as members of this digital world. It can be people from across the country. It can be people in the same room as you. You're just in this digital world interacting with a digital world. And that sort of different world that you're placing yourself into, whether it's the VR headset or anything like that, that's what's called the metaverse. Metaverse is a VR-based internet where users can explore, create, and they can engage with different digital experiences like games, socializing, shopping, education. But it doesn't honestly just have to be VR-based. The metaverse is typically VR-based because that's the most of immersive technology we have today. But there are times where you can control it based on your actual keyboard and mouse. There's metaverse experiences that go with that. It's just a matter of how immersed you want to be. And it's trying to essentially bring together what's like the physical world. Like, I don't know, you live right now, you're can see things on your wall, you're looking at this computer screen right now, and the digital world where you're playing a game or something like that. So trying to bring together those two worlds, sort of blend the boundary between them. So what distinguishes just, I don't know, the internet from the metaverse? Which is a fair question. The internet is accessible through, your computers, your smartphones, other internet connected devices. You're using it to sort of browse information and connect your computer to servers across the world using whatever internet protocol exists. And it has platforms of communication like email, messaging apps, and social media. But those are mainly based on you send a message, that message reaches another person, and then once they read it, they have to send another message back and respond. So there is a sort of time delay in that. And the internet is also widely integrated, widely respected. It's used in everything in your real life. Like, you're watching this webinar right now using the internet. The metaverse, the way it sort of distinguishes itself is it's trying to be more immersive. You're trying to actually have like real time sort of messaging or real time interactions with the stuff you're doing. So rather than sending a text message to someone and waiting for a response, you can actually just speak to them face to face digitally. Or, rather than trying to like utilize like Photoshop or something to digitally create art, you can actually stand in a virtual like painter's workspace and draw the art yourself. That's sort of the distinguishing boundary between them, how immersive and how interactive you are with the digital world. So an example, the metaverse. This is an example that probably a lot of you know about, and it's probably one of the most popular examples out there right now, at least Roblox. So Roblox is a way that you can create and play virtual experiences and games. And in Roblox, like a lot of you already know, you can sort of build virtual worlds, you can customize avatars, and you can engage in sort of multiplayer games activity. And the way that's sort of an example of the multiverse is that you're having this real-time social interaction. You're doing sort of creative and exploratory measures, like you're creating or exploring different people's experiences and worlds, and you're engaging in this sort of shared environment, whether you're talking in sort of a shared space or playing a game with a few other people. It's still an immersive platform, and you're creating and playing virtual experiences and games. So, example, the metaverse. And it's also trying to transition from like a 2D to a 3D internet. So rather than looking at photos of like a museum or reading articles, you can actually walk through the physical exhibit and interact with the objects, or you can actually play through what the article is about. Put yourself into the Oscars instead of reading about the Oscars, or put yourself into the Smithsonian Museum rather than just reading or looking at photos of it. And it's a big deal because like the metaverse, the reason it's so popular right now is because people are realizing that it can change the way we interact with the internet. Obviously, right now, it's not that big of a deal because there aren't a lot of technologies that can really take advantage of it. There haven't been a lot of people who have done it well. Like Mark Zuckerberg's tried, but he's not doing it that great. But there's a lot of exciting opportunities for work and collaboration to move into that sort of virtual space. And it can be a place for people to gather, engage, shop, trade, do everything that they would do, but in a virtual environment. I don't know if any of you guys have seen Ready Player One, but that's probably the most perfect example I can give of the metaverse if you've seen that movie. And if you haven't, I recommend watching it. It'll act as an alternative to sort of social media. It could, rather than like you doing posts, you could actually have those physical interactions with other people. It can allow businesses to sort of connect with consumers. Like imagine you were playing a game and then that game itself was like an advertisement for a company. I know it sounds kind of scary, but that could be an interesting way for businesses to sort of interact with their audiences, maybe sell products that they could actually physically interact with in that virtual world. And it won't have limitations about a company from, I don't know, like London, a company from, let's say, Greece wouldn't have a limitation with the consumer base it's trying to interact with. A company from there can interact with a company in the United States, interact with consumers from across the world without having any sort of issues with geography or with the services because it's all done through the internet. So the way that people sort of think the metaverse is going to evolve is sort of in a few stages. And the stages are sort of get progressively more sci-fi, more like, oh, this is not possible right now, and this is nowhere near possible in like the next 100 years. But it's still interesting to think about. So the first one is VR headsets, then full body VR, then advanced sort of VR and immersion, and then done becoming indistinguishable. That last one is really out there, but stage one is essentially where we are at right now, where we're probably going to be for a pretty long time at this point. The initial sort of stage of the metaverse the immersion at least relies on VR technology. So I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard about like Oculus Rifts or like the Quest or like the Steam VR and stuff like that. Um, it's essentially a way that you put on the headset and you're able to see like a virtual reality experience. Um, and it's pretty cool. If any of you guys have ever had the opportunity to try it, it's very, very interesting. And it's really fun to play around with. Like you put on the headset and you feel like you're within sort of either a game that you're playing or you can like watch YouTube on a massive screen. It's very cool. Um, and there's also things about like the blockchain, which is a little bit more of a complicated topic, but essentially allows for communication, payment transactions, stuff like that, also through the internet. And that's sort of the first stage of the metaverse, just using virtual reality, maybe like augmented reality, stuff like that, to immerse yourself into the experiences. The next stage is, again, on the line of like stuff like, I don't know, Ready Player One, Sword Art Online, things like that, where we have access to technologies like bodysuits or where you can actually move your arms, move your hands, and that moves your arms and hands in the virtual world. Or you're able to, let's say you're playing a game where you're playing paintball with someone and someone shoots a paintball at you, you can actually feel the paintball effect on you. And you can sort of also have a shared experience between metaverses. Like let's say you're playing a game where you have to collect treasure in one thing and you collect 1,000 coins, 1,000 gold, 1,000 experience in that one thing. You can take that 1,000 gold, 1,000 coins, 1,000 experience and move it over to another game and utilize it there. So sort of making a shared economy, shared ecosystem, shared characters across multiple virtual environments. That's another sort of step towards creating a cohesive metaverse, I guess. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, so this is sort of where technology is trying to push towards, but no one has even gotten close to this sort of immersion. Or if there are sort of haptic bodysuits and stuff like that exist, they're not affordable. Like a majority of people across the world don't have access to like computers or headsets that can even use like basic virtual reality. So getting it to where people can have bodysuits as well is obviously far off. Stage 3 is very, very far out there. This is like extremely towards the line of like dystopian or sort of online type things where you're able to actually move, like you're able to experience all 5 of your senses. You're able to like see, like, smell, hear the environment, and you're able to, rather than just like you feel like you're moving in the real world and you move into the game, it's you can literally feel yourself within the virtual environments. And whatever, like let's say you tell you I want to move my right hand, it'll like intercept that signal and move your right hand in the virtual environment. That sort of complete immersion requires an understanding of like the science of your brain, technology that doesn't exist yet. But it's an interesting sort of future to think about. I don't know if you guys would think it's sort of creepy, dystopian, I don't want to do this, is going to become like the Terminator, or if you guys think that it'd be like a really, really cool opportunity, a really cool world to live in where you can do something like this. I'd be interested to hear what you think. But that's essentially where the goals are continuing to push towards. And the final one is sort of blurring that line between the virtual and the real world, where you have this sort of technology that can intercept your, like whatever stuff your brain's trying to say. And this is just full, this is sort of a joke slide in terms of like it's full science fiction, dystopian, like no physical world at all. We're all in the metaverse. We're all like online or something like that, which is a scary concept to think about, but it's interesting to see that like, if we keep pushing forward with our technology, the end result would ultimately be something like this or something like the Matrix or something like that. So now that we've talked about sort of this really sci-fi stuff, we can sort of ground ourselves a little bit on what's the market for the metaverse and what's the sort of future that's going to be pushing forward for it. So the key statistics for this is the market size of the metaverse, this sort of like the virtual reality technologies, like companies like Roblox do experiences and stuff like that. Sort of other platforms that let you make like avatars or that generate art for the metaverse or do animations and stuff like that. The sort of combined market size of the metaverse and all those technologies that go along with it is predicted to reach around 800 billion by 2024. And ultimately, like banks and financial like experts across the world are expecting it to become $1 trillion opportunity, which means there's a very big opportunity in a very big field. And as you know, Facebook, like a few years ago, or actually I don't remember when, but Facebook renamed themselves to Meta as sort of push towards we want to become the forefront of the metaverse. Now, obviously, their metaverse experiments have failed a lot, and they're losing a lot of money on it, but they're still employing around 10,000 more people over the next 5 years just to focus on the metaverse side of things. And so some sort of key statistics is during like COVID-19, I'm sure a lot of you heard about like NFTs and things like that. Obviously, a lot of them have just gone downhill, not worth much now, but there was a $2.5 billion market for those during the peak of COVID. Decentraland, which I'll talk a little bit more about later, raised around $24 million ahead of its 2020 release. The global sort of AR and VR and MR, which is just sort of the technology for VR, like headsets and the VR experiences, not just the entirety of the metaverse, that itself is expected to reach $300 billion by next year. And there'll be by next year, there's also expected to be around 34 million VR headsets worldwide, which is crazy to think about because only like a few years ago, VR was considered this like crazy technology that only like really, really sort of wealthy people or really, really technology heavy people could afford or play with. But now it's becoming more and more mainstream, and there's even more and more affordable options available, which is great to see. And Roblox, sort of the prime example of like new metaverse technology and sort of the power that it can hold, it garnered nearly 10 billion hours of playtime in Q1 of 2021, which is, it's so large of a number, it's hard to even think about. 10 billion hours total of playtime. And every day for the first like quarter of 2021, 42 million people were visiting the platform, which is, those are numbers that even for any website is ridiculous, let alone like a game or experience sort of thing. So the next thing I want to talk about is what are the sort of layers of the metaverse? There's too many layers here, but I'm sort of going to break down what are key components of the metaverse, and they'll fit into these sort of layers. But in general, I just want to give you all like what are sort of the key foundations, the key building blocks that can really, like when someone asks you what the metaverse is, these are the sort of things that you can think about or you can sort of consider when you're hearing news with the metaverse, when someone's asking you about it to explain it. These are things you should sort of consider. So the first layer, the first sort of foundational element is the experience. And this is sort of the layer that most businesses and individuals are sort of focused on, is the idea of experiences, lifelike experiences, virtual immersive experience. And like the experiences kind of range from stuff like shopping to games to real estate to esports and even things like theater or movies. So the ability to sort of experience shopping in a virtual environment, but still getting to actually buy goods and services, play games, interacting with people in a virtual reality environment or an immersive sort of environment. Real estate. This is a one that I personally don't understand a lot, but if you want to own real estate in a virtual environment, they have opportunities for that. Esports. So you can actually, rather than just like watching esports through watching or playing an esports through like as a crowd or an event, you can actually put yourself and virtually see those games playing out in real time, or actually have esports ready like VR or metaverse titles. And theater and movies is something that I'm really interested in, where if you're able to put on a VR headset and have a personal movie theater to yourself, playing screens and stuff like that, and that'd be really powerful because you don't have to worry about getting seats. You don't have to worry about people crowding in front of you. You can sort of have a great movie experience while still having like still just sitting in your room or sitting sort of on your couch and having the relaxation of it as well. Shopping. So essentially, like one of the cool things with shopping is it allows you to sort of personalize your digital experiences for shoppers. Let's say there's someone who's really looking for dresses. You can give them a store full of just your dresses and sort of arrange them in a nice way and make it so that every single person who walks to a store has the items on display personalized to what they're looking for. It's a convenient shopping experience because they can do it from the comfort of their own homes. And Obsess is a sort of AR VR software platform that sort of starting to create these shopping, like this experiential or these shopping experiences by allowing you to sort of 3D 360-degree view like clothes and items and virtually try them on as well, just from the comfort of your home, rather than having to go to a actual physical store. Experiencing games. So gaming is often seen as, in my personal opinion, also has one of the highest potential to benefit from virtual reality, because games in the metaverse offer opportunities for experiences that you just can't get from like the actual internet itself. Like the immersive nature of a VR game or like a metaverse game is just so much more fun, so much more interactive than any other game could be. And on Roblox, they're starting to champion this by having like virtual items. You're able to customize things. There's a whole store. There's been a store for years where they customize these items. They have VR games in Roblox as well. It's really interesting to see. Esports. So traditional sports will sort of adapt to modern times. So you can not only see new games coming up as esports, but virtual versions of, like, let's say a virtual version of soccer, or a virtual version of football, something like that. Embracing new technologies, embracing new trends, and moving traditional sports into both physical and in the esports, which it's very futuristic. It still is a long time to go, but it's a cool concept to think about. VR technology enables hosting of live tournaments and competitions. So this is what I was talking about, where rather than having to sit in a stadium or buy tickets to a stadium to watch, like, I'm not sure, like the League of Legends World Tournament or something like that, you could actually see those tournaments live through like a headset or through online experiences and see the competitions like that as well. And these sort of immersive live events will boost the popularity of major sporting events because some people don't go to like major sporting events like the Super Bowl or the FIFA World Cup or things like that because there's a lot of price associated with travel, associated with like a hassle associated with getting hotels, tickets, where do I sit, how do I stay there for a while. Whereas if you can hold these if you can have like a virtual arena alongside the physical arena where the tournament's being held, you can host a lot more people and they can do it from the comfort of their own homes while still paying to have that experience. And there's also esports titles that are being made for the metaverse now, although that's still in its infancy. Real estate. This is one that I don't really understand, but you can purchase metaverse real estate based on your preferences, similar to shopping experiences. Eventually, when we get to a point where the metaverse is very, very prominent, then I can see this being powerful, because if a lot of people are using, like, real estate is sort of based on the value of the land and location that it's in. Like, if you get an apartment in New York City, then it's going to be worth a lot, because it's going to be really expensive because it's New York City. There's so many people that live there, so much traffic, so much bustle and hustle that goes on there, and there's not enough land there for sort of new buildings to be made. So there's value to that land. With the metaverse, there's not enough people right now to have that high value real estate. It'll just sort of be, oh, I own this in this one real estate thing, but people might not ever actually go to that virtual reality real estate experience. So that's sort of interesting to see. But what is interesting is to, let's say you want to buy a new home, rather than having to like actually physically go to an open house, you can put on a VR headset or open up your computer and open up like a VR experience and just walk through that house virtually. I think that's something that's really powerful. And stuff like live events. So if any of you have played, I guess like Fortnite or something like that, you've seen these sort of live events, these physical concerts going into virtual ones. cool immersive effects that are associated with that, and stuff that you wouldn't get at a normal concert, while still getting a sort of live experience with getting to interact with people in the same lobby, or getting to experience cool sort of visual effects that a concert in real life couldn't really do. And stuff like fitness as well is really powerful, because you can do full body workouts. You can have trainers right in front of you while still being in the comfort of your own home. You don't have to feel like shy about going to the gym. You can sort of do it from the comfort of your own home. You can have expert instructors interact with you. They can actually see the push-ups and the workouts you're doing, rather than, like, let's say you buy a video from like a physical trainer or an instructor, and you're just watching the video and hoping your form is correct. Rather than doing that, you can actually have this sort of shared experience, and the person can actually see all the aspects of your form virtually, and they can correct you on that. And in order to bring the experience of full body workouts and immersive sort of fitness experiences to you. And moving forward from that first layer, which is sort of the experience layer, the next one is sort of about discovery. And it sort of relies on what discoveries come from those metaverse experiences. So it not only talks about what discoveries come from those metaverse experiences, but how can you actually discover other new experiences from that? So the first sort of category for that, and this is not something you have to really know, but it's interesting to sort of think about, is inbound discovery. So let's say information comes into the metaverse from external sources, and you're sort of discovering those ideas. So Beyonce is at a concert, or Beyonce or Taylor Swift is at a concert, and they're doing this concert in real life. They're doing it at a stadium near you, but you can't go to that concert. However, they're live streaming that concert and their presence into a virtual world, and you have access to computers so you can log in and watch that concert from there. That's sort of interesting inbound discovery. Stuff like app stores, search engines, where people external, like developers or people who make websites, they put their websites, they put their apps onto the app store, and you're able to discover them and find new applications from those external sources. And you have outbound ones, so information that originates between the metaverse and goes to external platforms as well. So stuff like display advertising. If, like, let's say you drive down the street and you see a billboard, you can have billboards in the metaverse as well to sort of share that same content. Notifications, like, oh, someone sent you a message, or someone's trying to get your attention, or stuff like email, LinkedIn, these sort of social media and spam things are all sort of things you can experience within the metaverse and share them both inside and outside. So the next sort of foundational thing that I wanted to talk about was the creator economy. And this is something that I think is really interesting to a lot of people, especially people your age right now. This sort of idea of a creator economy. You've grown up watching so many like YouTubers, Twitch streamers, influencers in a sense, and it's a lot of people are interested in how do I get into that sort of same field as well. And I think the metaverse provides a sort of idea of a creator economy where the sort of experiences that people join into, like say the games, the concerts, the virtual worlds, the items that people would interact with, a lot of those aren't going to be created by companies, but rather be created by individual users. Someone decides, hey, I want to make this really cool fantasy world, and I'll just put it out there, and people can join into that. They can join into it and support me. This idea of a creator economy means that a lot of the goods, a lot of the services, a lot of the experiences that people will interact with are going to be created by individual people or created by creators. So stuff like apps, design tools, and workflow platforms for creating these experiences are going to be really powerful. And it's going to empower a lot of people to, like, let's say if you make a metaverse, like you design a new world, or you design a sort of a new game or something like that, and you share it to people, you're able to interact with a lot more people than you would be able to do in real life. Like, you can actually get your work out there to a lot more people a lot quicker. So some of the companies that do this sort of creator economy right now, and that you might know of, is for example, YouTube. YouTube's a very, very big one. You have a lot of YouTubers creating content for themselves. They do it self-made. They have editors. They make their own videos. They make their own content. They do their own research. And it allows individuals to create and distribute videos and live streams that they do and generate income for themselves from it. And then obviously stuff like Shopify, where you can create your own e-commerce businesses, and even stuff like Adobe, which you might not think is a creator economy, but it lets people, it's the tools that Adobe provides, like Photoshop and stuff like that, that let people let people create their videos, or let people create their art and create things that they can sell. And I'll sort of move past a lot of this. So spatial computing is the idea that this is another sort of foundation where how do we actually set up these things? How do we actually set up these avatars, set up these environments, set up these sort of experiences? We need some sort of computer backing it. We need some sort of way to process all the information. And one of the so that's based on a lot of platforms. And some of the platforms that do it the best today is stuff like Unity. A lot of the games you've seen have been made on Unity, virtual reality experiences made on Unity, worlds made on Unity, because it allows you to really easily and really powerfully create immersive 3D experiences. And it's tools that I can go on and use to make a basic game, but then really, really popular game developer companies can also go on and make their AAA title games. So like, it's technology that can be used by individual creators and by businesses to make really, really powerful tools. And like both people have access to it evenly. So it's really, really cool that they can do that. And the next sort of idea of the metaverse is like decentralization, which I'm not going to talk too much about, but essentially allows you to have like transactions or like value or identification in a way that it's not bound to like a single computer or a single like governmental organization. It's sort of fluid and it switches between a lot of them, and you're able to have multiple computers and multiple sort of contracts with people that are open source and stored in a way that no one person can sort of govern them or hold control over them, because it's so spread out, hence decentralized. The next sort of layer of the metaverse is what's called the human interface. And this is one that I was talking about before, where we have like virtual reality or like haptic suits or controllers, even like your Xbox controller or something like that could be a human interface, because it allows you to interact with a digital world. So let's say you're playing like a game, like a Roblox game or something like that. Your keyboard is a human interface. It's how you yourself can control the character in the digital environment. And it often refers to stuff like wearables, like VR headsets and smart glasses, but it's any sort of interface that can connect you to a digital world. So, stuff like your smartphones, virtual reality headsets, and in the future, maybe some cool sci-fi technology about like your mind interfaces. Infrastructure. This is something that like not a lot of people consider, but when you have this sort of metaverse technology, you need a way to actually support it. You need the internet to be able to support it as well. So new technologies like 5G, like the new sort of 5G wireless, lets you get internet speeds and transmit data in a way that you couldn't before. And that allows the more data, the more Wi-Fi, the more sort of signal you can transmit, the more information you can transmit, the more immersive experiences you can create, because you can transmit that much more data and have that much more information be shared across the network. And obviously stuff like your GPUs, the more powerful your GPUs are, the more stuff you can render, the more sort of high quality things you can render, and the architecture on which it all runs, like the servers, the platforms, the cloud services, and things like that. So the next sort of section that I want to talk about, that was sort of foundations of the metaverse. Now I want to talk about some of the technologies that the metaverse is built on. I mentioned a lot of terms like virtual reality, AR, stuff like that. I want to take a little bit of time to dive deep into those. So there's a lot of sort of terminologies that that are related to the metaverse, and you've probably seen a lot of these acronyms before, like AR, VR, MR, XR. Like it gets confusing. Like what is each one referring to? What's the differences between them? And I just wanted to go over like a brief introduction onto them and allow you further to sort of look at them in your own time and see what sort of ones you want to experiment with. So the first one that I want to talk about is AR, which is augmented reality. That's what it stands for. And it essentially allows you to put virtual objects into the physical world. I think the greatest example, or the easiest example I can give of AR, is if anyone has played Pokemon Go in recent years. Pokemon Go was probably one of the first major players in AR, because in the app you're able to like pull up your phone and you can see like a Pokemon, like a Pikachu or something, in the real world, but you're interacting with it on your phone. And that's the sort of idea that AR is trying to get across. You have like the real world in front of you. You can project and put virtual objects onto it, and you can look at them through like a headset or through your actual phone or tablet or something like that. VR is a step away from that. So AR is augmented reality, because you're still like in your physical world. You can still only see your physical world. But VR is virtual reality. So you're completely immersed into it. You wear this headset and you can't really see your physical surroundings. You can't see the room around you. Rather, you see the game you're playing, or you see the virtual theater you just created for yourself. It's completely immersing yourself, and it's completely putting yourself within like a 3D virtual environment. Mixed reality is sort of a combination of both, like the sort of combination of virtual reality or an extension on it. And it's where you can interact with physical and digital objects at the same time. So let's say you have like a Pokemon Go experience like that. Let's see a Pokemon Go, and on your phone you'd be looking at it. You can see a Pikachu across from you. You can see a Pokemon across from you, and you can be interacting with that. Now, let's say you put on a VR headset, and you can still see your normal like room, your normal real world. You can also see the Pikachu there. So it's a virtual experience in the sense that you have this headset on, but you're also interacting with your physical world as well. And extended reality, XR, is kind of like an umbrella term. Extended reality is what combines is extended reality is essentially taking the AR that we mentioned, augmented reality, VR, virtual reality, and MR, mixed reality, and it's just a broad term that encompasses all of those under a single sort of umbrella. And it just allows you to say, okay, I'm working on XR technologies or extended reality technologies, which means you can be working on any one of these. You could be working on a combination of them. It allows you to sort of easily communicate that, hey, I'm working on technology that does this, that extends our physical reality. The blockchain. The blockchain is something you've probably heard like a lot in the news as well. And it's essentially a way to store records in what's called blocks. And these blocks are connected and they're encrypted using cryptography in a way that your information is spread across multiple computers, maybe even multiple servers across multiple countries even, as a way for your transaction to not live on a single computer or on a single server, but rather exist across multiple servers so that the information about it is never lost and it's associated with you. And because it can always be associated with you and it can never be lost, provides like a definitive proof of ownership. Like no one can ever take away that you own something on the blockchain. Like if something's ownership is based in the blockchain, then no one can ever take it away from you, because you've put that information on, like that information is stored in like a ledger or like a book or a note or something like that on a block, and it's connected and it's duplicated and it's like reduplicated across countless other computers. So there's no way to sort of trace to a single origin, and we know that your information is correct. And then this is sort of one of the futuristic ones, or it's starting to be worked on today, but it's nowhere near like consumer ready. And and that's haptic suits. So haptic suits are basically, let's say I'm in a VR experience and I don't know, I'm like, I guess I'll use the example from before, and I'm playing paintball, or I'm playing like a game or something like that where people can throw snowballs or paintballs at me. Let's say someone in the game throws a paintball or a snowball at me, and I get hit with it, like right here in my chest. If someone does that, and if someone does that and I'm wearing a VR headset, I don't really feel anything. I'm like, oh, my HP went down, or oh, I lost. Oh, that's too bad. But if you're wearing this sort of haptic suit, it'll actually give you the physical sensation that, oh, something hit me, something touched me. And that physical sort of reaction, or the ability to simulate the sense of touch in a virtual environment, is very, very powerful to sort of create convincing environments. Things that are actually fully just thinking, hey, this might be real life. And this sort of extends to motion tracking technology and your controllers to sort of mimic your hand movements, to really feel like it's not just a game you're playing or not just experience you're in, but you're actually physically in that 3D environment. And then neurotech is obviously like the futuristic technology where we can use your brain signals to actually directly communicate with a virtual avatar, but it's nowhere near in production or even close to production today. AR lenses is something that's been pretty cool. And if you guys have been hearing about, AR lenses is sort of about like AR integrated with your contact lenses, but AR lenses can also sort of deal with stuff like, I don't know if you've heard about Apple's their new Vision Pro, where it's a VR headset, but it's related just to AR. It allows you to see virtual experiences in your real world. It allows you to interact with things around you, create like monitors and keyboards and like a virtual workspace around you while still interacting with the real world. So it's a way of bringing that AR technology, bringing like the Pokemon Go technology, but always on you and always visible. So the next thing I want to sort of talk about is Metaverse as a sort of disruptor of industries. Now, what do I mean by that? That essentially means, how is this idea, this concept of whatever the Metaverse is, how is that going to change some of the most popular things in our world today? How is the Metaverse going to change social media? How is it going to change gaming? How is it going to change sort of workspaces and things like that? So it's like a look at social media. Current social media platforms are sort of, they impose restrictions on user behavior. You have the ability to sort of, like post a message and wait for other people to respond. However, let's say you take it into a virtual environment, you could be able to really talk to people like face to face, which I guess you can do in real life. But let's say you can put your post up, people can actually interact with it in real time. Or you could like post a story, people could actually view it in real time as well. And let's say you want to talk about gaming. How does the Metaverse sort of disrupt gaming? So how it could disrupt gaming is, let's say, I want to say this. So let's say that you have like a VR space compared to like a normal 2D game. Normally, when you're playing a game, let's say there's something on your computer, you're just moving around with like WASD or your arrow keys, or you can still feel like, oh, I'm just sitting here and I'm playing this game and I'm like looking at the screen. But if you take into VR or you take into AR, then that makes this experience so much more interactive, and it can let you play that game and interact with people within the game in a way that you couldn't before. And it provides a level of immersion and fun and entertainment that you really can't get without VR. So you have stuff like Sandbox, Ultra, which are sort of really big. Sandbox, Decentraland, and Ultra are like really, really big companies that are trying to only push towards this sort of VR gaming and this sort of idea of VR games and VR experiences. It can also disrupt industries like fashion by like companies like Zara and H&M have done this sort of thing where they bring they bring either their stores, like their physical stores, and they open them within the metaverse, and they allow people to try on new clothes, try on new fashion items, while still being in the comfort of their own homes, and also to purchase them there as well. So that's one way it can work. Or in the future, if the metaverse becomes very popular, then you can actually buy fashion items exclusively for the metaverse and create these sort of new immersive fashion experiences, maybe runway experiences as well. Marketing is a pretty big one, because you can have either, like, let's say ads or billboards within the virtual world, which is one way to do it. But another thing you can do is do things like what Fortnite and Roblox and other sort of popular companies are doing right now, where you have an artist or you have a company, you have a movie that you want to advertise. Rather than just advertising it in a normal way, you could actually just make a game that acts as an advertisement, but also acts as a virtual experience. I'm not sure how many of you experienced this, but there are a lot of these available today where you can go on and it seems like you're just playing a normal game, but everything's themed towards, like, I don't know, Pepsi's new product, or it's themed towards this new artist, and it's advertising in a way that also creates a fun experience. It can disrupt things like architecture, because you can do 3D modeling. You can actually see your skyscraper from your blueprint before it's even built. You can have a visualization of it. You can actually play around, interact with, okay, if I add 2 more floors here and add, let's say, expand this floor out by this much, how would that sort of change the look of it? How will that change how this view looks in real life? Here's like a landscape in New York City. If I were to build a skyscraper, how would it affect the skyline? Really cool things like that. And you can also preserve buildings. So let's say there comes a time where, like, historical buildings have to be taken down, or there's a building within your neighborhood or your childhood home that you want to sort of capture and you want to memorialize. What you can do is you can actually capture those experiences within the virtual world, recreate your childhood home, recreate that historical house in the virtual world, and at any time you can just go up and experience it, walk through it as if you were really there. Retail sort of aligns with the fashion thing I was talking about before, where you're interacting with new types of stores, you're able to buy content as part of experiences, so the in-game content, like a lot of people have seen as well. And e-commerce is sort of sorry. E-commerce sort of deals with how do we buy and interact with products that are just exclusively for the virtual world. Like, let's say Amazon. You go on Amazon, you're buying products. Let's say Amazon opens up a store in like a virtual reality world. Then how are you going to go in, interact with products, virtually shop for things? And it makes a really interesting sort of idea. Rather than, yeah, so it makes a really interesting idea on how you can actually interact with stores and stuff in the virtual environment. And workspaces is a really cool one, because let's say right now you're in your room or something like that. You're looking at a laptop on a phone screen, something like that, and you're watching this webinar. Oftentimes when you're at home and you're trying to like do work, you wish like, oh, maybe if I had like another monitor here, or if I had a bigger screen, I'd be able to see like maybe my presentation, my notes, Google Classroom, and like my messages with my friend or something like that at the same time. Obviously, in your physical like desk, you might not have that much space. You might not have the ability to get multiple monitors. But what you could do is, if you had the ability to do these sort of virtual reality experiences and these became commonplace, you could actually just take your screen, put on a headset, and have the ability to see 3 monitors and 4 screens, all just by sitting on a couch or sitting on your desk. You have a lot more real estate than you can ever have in terms of these sort of workspace environments. But obviously, there's challenges to this. Those challenges come in the form of you don't have the hardware. Not everyone has access to virtual reality hardware. Not everyone has access to the capabilities to run these metaverse experiences. And there's a lot of experiences that we want to do that we don't have the hardware today, like haptic bodysuits and stuff like that. How do we promote privacy and data security? If everyone's going to be on the internet, there has to be a way to protect your data and protect the sort of privacy that you have, and make sure that actions that are taken against you in the virtual world don't come out and reflect on you in the real world. how do we create these spaces? How do we create currency systems for this? If we create a currency system in dollars, if someone's joining in from Greece and they have a different sort of currency, how does that interaction work? Who owns what in the metaverse? Like, does the person who runs the servers, which is hosted on, own it? Does the designer who made the world own it? Does the company who can a company just go in and buy it? And how do we handle legal and jurisdictional systems or laws in relation to a lot of things that come with the metaverse? And there's some interesting case studies in the metaverse as well. We're going to share these slides with you if you want to dive deeper into these, but just sort of give you a brief overview of them. These are some of the companies that have been doing a lot of work with the metaverse. Facebook with the Meta, obviously Epic Games with Fortnite, Tencent with a lot of their experiences, Decentraland, Sandbox, and Roblox. So Epic Games owns Fortnite and Unreal Engine, which is essentially Unreal Engine is like kind of equivalent to Unity. It allows you to make either AAA games or personal games, and it gives you a platform to make these sort of experiences. And Fortnite has done a lot of things with this metaverse idea, where they're making concerts or art museum or like virtual experiences that can bring together people in a single lobby, while also giving them a concert or something like that that is live streamed at the same time. Decentraland is sort of blockchain-based virtual world where people can create their own land plots, artwork, NFTs, and things like that. And one of the really powerful things about it is people can actually script and create their own apps with 3D scenes that provide user experiences. Decentraland is just sort of the overall like land or continent, virtual continent on which everything lives. And it's developed neighborhoods, it attracts like fans, there's communities growing on it. There's advertising in terms of billboards and other advertising spaces. And there's sort of social communities and platforms on there that are a lot more interactive than other social media groups can be. And obviously there's Roblox. Roblox is a sort of global platform a lot of you probably know about. And it's a place where millions of individuals gather every day to sort of imagine, create, and they share new user-generated experiences with each other. And they're used, and they're as varied and they're as diverse to sort of users' imaginations. You can find anything on Roblox nowadays. And they're free to access, and it provides a very, very ease of entry and a lot of easy ways to interact with people and find these experiences. You know, you can be a race car driver, you can join a fashion show, you can play like you're a World War II fighter or something like that. There is so many different things you can do on there. And each one is sort of distinct and unique in its own way. And they don't need any additional sort of software or headset or anything to interact with the game. They just need any device that has an internet connection, they can join in. You know, obviously they have every genre imaginable: racing, action, role-playing, shooting, fashion, educational, anything you can imagine is probably on there. And with that, I'm going to conclude sort of the presentation for today. And if any of you have any questions, anything you want to talk about, any interesting things about the metaverse, please just feel free to send them in the comments right now, or just send the question in a private message. And I have a little bit of time before our next presentation, so I'll be glad to answer some of those questions right now. If there's anything you want me to go back to and explain more as well, I'll be happy to do that. But just also to keep in mind, next week I'm going to be talking about HS Navigator itself. So how can you actually use HS Navigator as a way to find your summer opportunities and things like that. That's on August 5th. So look forward to that. But as of right now, if anyone has any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. Okay, so one question I got was, yeah, this is a pretty good one. So do other games have anything to do with the metaverse? Like, let's say Minecraft or something like that. And I think there are opportunities for Minecraft in the metaverse. Just like there are opportunities for Roblox or any other game platform. Minecraft has the same sort of thing where there's different servers, different worlds, different experiences that people can interact with, and people can create whatever they want in there. I think that's the key thing. There's a freedom to create whatever you want, and that happens in both Roblox and in Minecraft. And you're able to interact with it and join it from any device that has an internet connection. Obviously, there's a cost to Minecraft, unlike Roblox, but I think there's still that same sort of metaverse experiences. They have capitalized a lot on it in terms of the like community maps and stuff that they build. But there's a lot more opportunity for them to do live experiences. I think that's an interesting thing to think about. Ooh, oh, this is like I like this one. So I'm not sure how many of you have actually seen the movie. Let me see if I can. So there's a movie. I'm not sure how many of you have seen it, but Wreck-It Ralph or Wreck-It Ralph 2 is Wreck-It Ralph 2 is essentially a movie about like a group of arcade characters who essentially want to save like a video game, and they travel into what's called like the World Wide Web. It's kind of cheesy, but it's a funny movie. And within that movie, they're walking around a lot of sort of virtual experiences. They're walking around websites, walking around communities of people, and they're seeing embodiments of like sites like Facebook or Reddit or other things like that as like actual physical communities and areas. I think that's a pretty interesting example or pretty interesting like representation of the metaverse, because it's taking the websites and the social media platforms and the games and everything that interact with today and bringing them to life as like actual physical virtual environments. So obviously like Ready Player One was one that I mentioned before. Also Wreck-It Ralph too. Those are the two pretty good movies if you're interested in seeing sort of sci-fi sort of ideas that relate to the metaverse and that are just funny and great movies to watch, especially Ready Player One. I highly recommend that one. It gives you sort of a great idea about what the metaverse can sort of look like or what the sort of technology can look like in the future. If anyone else has any sort of questions, please feel free to send it. I'll like give it like a minute or so, and then I'll give you guys a few minutes early. And after this, we're going to be doing a college presentation on Rutgers University, if you guys want to join into that. All right. I think it's not, I don't see any more questions sort of coming in. So I'll take that as a sort of opportunity to say thank you guys so much for attending the presentation. And as always, feel free to attend the next web presentation about Rutgers University. And next week, be sure to sort of come to this presentation where I talk about how can you actually use HS Navigator, the thing that this Young Scholar program was based off of. How can you use it to find opportunities for yourself and use sort of ways to build up your career and find the thing that you want to work on in the future. Yes, thank you guys so much. And I think that'll be it for this webinar.